All right, fam. What's going on? How y'all doing out there? So it is July 18th, 2026, approximately 6:54 p.m. a.m. Damn. 6:54 a.m. Eastern side. We flip the poles. It might be Western Gregorian calendar. Hear me out. I'm sitting up here and I'm learning while I'm scrolling now. I know I'd be like, I'm scrolling. But if I am going to be scrolling on this Black Mirror, I am going to learn and take notes. Now, we're over at Simp. Let me go ahead and get me on out the way. We're over at Simp Saver Sam's channel. What up, Simp Saver Sam? How you doing, Sam? How you been? It's been a while since we met up. So we're over on his channel and we're going to go ahead and react. And as you can see by the title, he's literally the male version of Ellen DeGenerate. Okay. So yeah, I'm gonna let Simp, what's your name? Damn. Simp Saver Sam get back into it. Okay. And if I mess up your name, that means I truly fuck with you. So back to you at Simp Saver Sam.
So a lot of people out there are comparing this guy to the male version of Ellen DeGenerate when James Corden is exposed as a monster. Let's get into it.
James Corden's career is in tatters, and it's all thanks to one person, James Corden. And this was the moment it all came crashing down. According to an Instagram post from a restaurant owner, James had gotten incredibly nasty at a New York restaurant, berating the staff.
Yeah, that's the one thing I've heard the most about this guy is he's extremely rude. Especially when he goes out to eat.
Any other celebrity might have gotten away with it, but after decades of scandals, controversies, and nastiness, it was the last straw for James Corden.
It kind of does sound like Ellen, doesn't it?
I think I was booked to be on within the next couple of weeks. He
Cancelled
me. I tried to call him.
Yeah.
And he's
would
probably
take the call.
Ever.
Somebody wrote on his show and they're like, oh, he seems so nice. And he was like, he's like Ellen.
For years, James Corden's behavior was an open secret in show business. From celebrities to service staff to random...
I guess you guys were right. Maybe he is the male version of Ellen, huh?
Members of the public, everyone had their own story. In front of the camera, audiences were enraptured by his down-to-earth, personable charisma. But the price he'd paid to reach the very top of Hollywood came at a cost that would destroy him from the inside.
Yeah.
See, unlike lots of other Hollywood celebrities, James Corden didn't come from money or great fame. He was born in England to a family of modest means, and in pretty much every way you can imagine, his early life was just incredibly average. The only difference was James himself. His autobiography goes into great detail about how he was a born performer. When he was just 3 years old, he was attending his babysitter's christening, and in the middle of the ceremony, James stood up on his chair and started making funny faces to the people sitting behind him. He says it was his earliest memory and that it laid the foundation for his love of performance.
Oh man, he had main character syndrome from early, huh? What a donut.
That feeling of being noticed and at the center of attention. It also wasn't the last time James would try to steal the spotlight though, as we'll soon see, as James had always wanted fame. According to this early interview, he was as lazy as possible in school. All he wanted to be was an actor or musician, and he never studied. But even when he landed his first part in a musical at 17, he was bored after a month. Relegated to just being a background singer, he felt underutilized despite barely having any experience whatsoever. Quote, the monotony of it and the fact that I was just stood at the back. I was 17. You've got to have a ridiculous ego to be 17 on your first job thinking, what's this? Why am I just stood at the back? In my head, I thought I'd walk in and they'd go, wow, we should give him a song. And so for years, James repressed his feelings of being unseen. He would just take any role he could get, no matter how much it hurt his ego. At first, it was just scraps, tiny one-line roles on forgotten daytime TV shows.
Well, the only thing I think I watched of him in was Gavin and Stacey. I thought that was great.
And lost commercials. He still...
At Simp Saver Sam, before you get back into it, one thing I can notice about all of the celebrities that are allegedly true assholes in real life, very demonic, very mean, manipulative, deceitful, evil, whatever words they want to use, right? Allegedly. And from what we've seen on TV and things like that. What I've noticed is during their growing up, when they were kids, right? They were also bullied, right? They were considered funny looking to some people, not to me. Because people can be harsh with their words. I can too, but I choose not to talk about people's physicalities, right? And let me not wander off too much in the mind because I can do that as well. But basically, what I'm saying is they all had like what you would consider this nerdy look, right? Or they were considered to look funny, meaning they were bullied, okay? And the ones that typically are bullied, when they end up being celebrities, they become the bully, okay? And it always happens. Not always, because a lot of us, we be bullied and we fuck around and we not only fuck the bullies up, the bullies begin to love us. And it be like, what? And then they say you still end up being a bully. But anyway, let me shut the fuck up. Let's get back to the video. Pay attention to what I'm saying. How they looked when they were in their kid ages and their teenage ages, and how they acted, right? If they were considered to be overweight, they played around too much, right? They wanted everyone to laugh at them, right? But somehow, some way, they needed to be seen. Let's get back into it.
Struggled with working hard though. Directors told him he was too lazy and that he lacked focus. At this point, he wasn't much more than a warm body, someone to fill a role that anyone could have done. On soap operas, directors just used him as the replaceable fat character, making jokes about how he smells. Fat, lazy, and disrespected by everyone around him, fueled with the business to take over the industry. No one around him respected him, all while he was lazy but incredibly ambitious, which led to a completely toxic mix of both wanting vengeance and fame.
Here's what would happen if an exhausted mom started taking HGLP-1 for 4 weeks.
Ambitious, which led to a completely toxic mix of both wanting vengeance and fame. And if he couldn't work his way to the top, he would then take it on with his own hands, making his own show instead. And from there, he could add.
There it is, Gavin and Stacey. I know a lot of people, British people, have watched it. Maybe not to my American viewers, but if you've watched it, let me know. I thought it was great, that show. I found it funny.
Actually live up to his ego. It would be through his own shows like Fat Friends and eventually Gavin and Stacey that gave Corden the space to perfect his act. He was larger than life in all senses of the word. On screen, he was the nice guy who let his emotions get away from him. But he also embodied the cheeky, cheery, and witty character that was everywhere at the time. He was more approachable and down to earth than other sitcom characters, and it made him much more palatable to a wider audience. Meanwhile, James Corden was quietly building his career in other ways. He got parts in the West End to act on stage, finally, while also making key connections within the industry. When Gavin and Stacey finally took off and became incredibly popular, James Corden was front and center of UK audiences. He was both one of the writers, the creator.
Yeah, it's true. I remember everyone was talking about this series back in the day.
And the main actor. One of the later episodes even became the most watched scripted TV program of the entire 2010s, pulling in over 10 million viewers.
Wow.
But even as James Corden shot up to the top of British show business, the warning signs were beginning to appear. That bitterness and anger hadn't gone away. He had gotten everything he wanted, and now he was finally making his way up to the top. But
I used to, when back in the coaching days, when I used to coach boxing as personal trainer and everything, I used to train these people that worked in a football stadium, and they said that this guy was there once. And they make sure that these people have like VIP seating and drinks and all that stuff, right? They said this guy was one of the rudest, obnoxious people they'd ever met in their entire life.
I believe him.
And this was like, blimey, 8 years ago now. So that was back then. Yeah, they said he was the most horrible person they'd ever met, and they only met him for like an hour.
the feeling of rejection and anger from the early years was still there, and this level of fame and recognition wasn't going to be enough, as James saw this only as the first stage of his larger plan to become famous. Now, everyone knows that fame changes people, but we still don't know much about the specifics of.
I think fame kind of, it doesn't always change. Well, it does change people, but it exposes people too. Because they appear to be nice and genuine on camera, and then you meet these people in person and they're just horrible people.
How people react to fame. The closest thing we have comes from a study which analysed interviews with famous people from across the spectrum. While everyone's journey was different, they found that people generally reacted to massive fame in 4 distinct phases. At this point in his career, Corden was squarely on the first stage, acclamation. When you go from a normal life to massive fame very quickly like Corden did, you get hit with the shock of it all at once. The difference is night and day. You go from being unnoticed to having everyone's attention on you at all times. Finally, you're not lonely and angry anymore. Different people have different reactions, but the study explains that generally it's a love-hate relationship. As you can imagine, you can easily get drunk in this, thinking that because so much has changed, that you're really just a completely different person now. You can even start to believe that the rules don't apply to you anymore. We've seen this all the time, whether it be Steve Jobs refusing to have a license plate and parking disabled bays, or people like Ellen completely abusing all the people that make her show to begin with. And there was one famous
we know about Ellen, don't we?
moment from early on in James's career that shows us this in perfect detail. In 2008, Corden appeared on the pop singer Lily Allen's talk show. He was clearly falling for her, and later interviews would reveal that he'd been crushing on her for a long time. At the time, people thought the exchange was just flirty banter, but years later, Lily Allen revealed that she wasn't interested at all, writing in a tweet that he came on to me in front of a studio audience. If I'd have shut him down, I would have been labeled cold or up myself or snobbish. James also said that he thought they were dating. They hung out a few times after the interview, but it never led anywhere. Realizing that Lily Allen didn't feel the same way brought back all those childhood feelings, all those insecurities about being a fat, lazy loser, something that the fame was trying to mask in the first place. And it wasn't the only time that Corden's overly confident and loud persona got him in trouble that year. At the 2008 BAFTA Awards, for example, Corden reportedly used his acceptance speech to question why the judges hadn't given him a different award instead.
Oh no.
And then at a different awards ceremony, he made overly sexual jokes about Keira Knightley. People laughed it off at the time, but today it does look a little different. But
see, there are a lot of people who become famous and it doesn't change them. Like Carl Pilkington, for example. That guy could be a global superstar, and that guy I don't think he has the capability to have ego or change or become arrogant or anything like that.
And my bad at Simp Saver Sound. I'm gonna let you go ahead and finish. My bad to cut you off. But here's what I also wanted to add it to that like in their societies and in their worlds, you have a lot of them that were groomed from children as early as the age of 9 on earlier, age of 3 on earlier, birth, right? And it seems like James is one of those that came in. Okay, he was bullied, right? As a kid, he was bullied, becoming the bully. But it seems as though he was groomed, but he turned this way out of the ego, like the power trip, like, you know what I'm saying? Like, for instance, that young lady, she didn't want to, you could tell, like, she wasn't interested in dating James, right? But yet he chose to choose that opportunity to try to push himself on her. And of course, they got a smile for the camera now. Click, click. But it's like, what the fuck? You know, she felt uncomfortable, right? And they do that. They use their power. And you could tell the differences in them, right? The ones that were groomed from birth, from 3 years old, from 9 years old, they tend to become the drug addicts. They tend to be the ones who they call out of control, lashing out, mentally ill, you know what I'm saying? Things like that. Eating disorders, shit. Back to you at Simp Saver Sam.
There are people who genuinely just nothing phases them like that. But there are a hell of a lot of people where money, especially, and fame, and status and power definitely does change him for sure.
How he reacted to fame may have well created division between him and his castmates on Gavin and Stacey as well. In fact, behind the scenes, their relationship was on a razor's edge. While today they're still at least happy to work together, Corden fell out with lots of them after the show ended in
I remember hearing that actually. He fell out with a lot of the people during that.
2010. His co-star on the show, Matthew Horn, stopped working with Corden shortly afterwards. The pair had both been trying to follow up their success with Gavin and Stacey for years, but all the other sketch shows and pilots they tried out fell relatively flat. Now, we don't really know what happened between them personally, as they both keep that very guarded, but it's clear a rift developed at this point. In a later interview, Corden seemed to regret what had actually happened, while being careful not to apologize or actually own up to anything at all. In this chat with Piers Morgan, Corden talked vaguely about why they weren't working together. He was clearly emotional when Piers revealed that Matthew Horn had been asked to come on as well, but had actually refused.
And we asked him to take part in this programme.
Right.
And he chose not to.
Oof. I didn't know that.
He said he could understand why though, and Matthew Horn would later call them hectic times. It was clear something had happened, and James was feeling guilty about it. Rob Brydon, one of Corden's Gavin and Stacey
Well, he says he can feel guilty about it, but he's only saying that on camera, isn't he? But he's only saying that on camera, isn't he?
Agreed.
It's all fake. Everything on TV. Everyone gives the sob stories on TV. I just don't really buy it.
Co-stars had to give him an intervention after he went off the deep end with his partying and his new persona. In a later interview, he described him as becoming spoiled and brattish, saying that he's suddenly enjoying the fruits of his success, and he just lost his way for a bit. He was burning the candle at both ends and becoming ratty and irritable. It was clear that Corden was overdosing on fame, money, and attention. All the things he never had growing up. And as he got more and more used to fame, he began to enter the second stage of dealing with it, true addiction. Having a massive ego already made Corden much more susceptible to the problems with fame. One issue is that your self-belief gets fueled by your own success, and this changes the world around you. In one way, it alienates you from all of your old friends. They know the real you, the person that you were before you were famous. So as you change over time, they can lose touch with you, and eventually things can spiral out of control. And it's very likely this is what happened to Corden and his old Gavin and Stacey castmates. Meanwhile, becoming famous brings you all sorts of new friends. They're often sycophants, only looking to elevate their own position or squeeze some money out of you while flattering you as much as possible. Fame traps you between these two worlds, and it turns you into two separate people, your old authentic self and your new famous persona. Corden said that he'd listened to Rob Brydon and changed his ways, but the evidence suggests otherwise. To fuel the addiction, you leave your old boring self behind, and as time went on, Corden would soon become the person that he used to pretend to be. Perhaps one of the worst moments of Corden's career came at another award ceremony in 2010. This time, the Glamour Woman of the Year award. A night meant to celebrate the work of women within the industry came apart as Corden clashed with an intoxicated Patrick Stewart. Neither of them come off well here, but James in particular looked terrible, especially considering what we know now. So Patrick Stewart made some jokes at his expense, and any rational person could have just laughed them off and continued the show.
If you fancy the Jonas Brothers, cover your belly.
It all would have been fine and people would have forgotten the next day. But at this point, it's likely that James was deeply addicted to being the center of attention at all times. Once you've gotten over...
Yeah, I already knew it. This guy had main character syndrome from day one. Not gonna lie, these people irritate me. If I go to restaurants or gatherings, whatever, if someone's got the main character syndrome, I'm out of there. Because they're gonna ruin my day.
Yep.
You know. Main character syndrome in people is one of my pet peeves. You know how people call it these days? What is it? The kids call it these days an ick. That's my ick. Can't stand it. Can't stand it.
I agree at Simp Saber Sam. Now I agree. However, where you at, baby? Where you at? Hear me out. Hear me out. It's a lot of us that has suppressed any of our characters, so we didn't realize that we were only subdued to one character, right? We didn't even realize we had a main character. Now, I agree. As you can see by James Corden, his main character energy is all out of balance, right? It's delusional, manipulative, deceitful, envious. It's all the fucking deadly sins all packed in one, right? Check out that number 4 though. That's my life path number. Yeah, but my bad. ADHD. Yeah, main character energy. And I'm a July Leo, right? So I do have a tendency to want to be the main character, but I don't make it obvious. I used to. But not like that, though. Not like this. I just wanted people to hear my truth. No, these motherfuckers lying. That type of main character. Hold the fuck up, they lying. You know what I'm saying? But yeah, back to you. Finish eating his ass up.
And you get a bit more used to the spotlight, fame becomes all the more intoxicating to some people. As the study says, one may enter a cycle of addiction, happiness becomes synonymous with celebrity, and one incessantly strives to remain the center of adoring attention. Corden here couldn't stand being taken out of the spotlight and being made fun of, even though it was just for a second.
Yeah, look at him. Look at his face.
Yeah.
Look.
Yeah.
Look at his face here.
Yes.
Out of the spotlight and being made fun of. Even
that nigga from Star Trek, whoever he is, the bald head nigga right here, whatever his name is, right? Where y'all at? He looking at your man James like he gonna fuck him up later. You understand what I'm saying? Like he broke every code, whatever. Look how he got his arm folded. He looking at him like, you know you fucked up, right? You know what I'm saying? Because in their world, it's a certain line of respect that you have to have for those that are above you. And shit, this is like King Warlock here, the bald head dude. You know what I'm saying? How dare your energy? You know what I'm saying? Back to you, Sam. Just know James got fucked up after this.
though it was just for a second, it seemed to trigger the old insecurities from childhood, as he then blows the whole thing up and escalates the situation, trying to make sure his reputation and fame is completely untouched. So instead of laughing it off, he immediately gets in Sir Patrick Stewart's face, trying to intimidate him.
Don't stand at the back of the stage with your hands in your pockets, looking around as though you wished you were anywhere but here.
Oh, you couldn't be more wrong, sir. You couldn't be more wrong.
The pair traded jabs,
cringe,
with James
man.
getting the last line.
You can see my belly, and we can all see you dying right now. Let's go for it. Here we go.
And it's all hilariously juvenile, and Corden could have easily been the bigger man. At the time, people saw it out of the ordinary, but today it fits the picture a whole lot better. James had
Pause. We'll go back a little bit. I'm going to play it, and I want y'all to peep Corbin's eyes, right?
And it's all hilariously juvenile, and Corden could have easily been the bigger man. At the time, people saw it out of the ordinary, but today it fits.
Boom. Look at his fucking eyes. I ain't talking about the crow eyes on the side. I'm talking about the actual eyes. That nigga look off. Back to you, as Sim was saying.
The picture a whole lot better. James had burned lots of bridges in the UK during this early part of his career. Meanwhile, he was addicted to fame, fortune, and attention. This gave him a big problem. Where could he go next? He had the love of audiences, and he was a massive household name, but he also had lots of problems within the UK's TV and film industry. That was...
See, this woman, I can't remember, what was her name? What was her name?
I'm thinking. Damn.
Oh, it's going to bug me.
It's on the tip of my tongue.
But anyway, she was my favourite character, funny enough. She was hilarious. I'll remember it in a minute, but right now I just can't remember
where
it.
he made his next big move. Throughout the early 2010s, James still got lots of parts in films, and he got lots of gigs hosting award ceremonies as well. His on-screen persona was one of the most digestible and palatable for that kind of job. Most of the time, he made a few innocent jokes and just kept things moving. It wasn't enough though, and to keep his fame intact, he had to get involved with something new that would keep him relevant. That was when he turned to America. In the UK, he was now just old news. Most Brits had soured on him, and lots of the entertainment industry was sick of his antics. In the US though, he was still fresh and exciting. They ate up his persona even more than British audiences. To them, he epitomized a growing idea of what normal British people were like. Instead of the usually dry, cutting British humor that most Americans were used to, he put across a much more approachable, less intimidating vibe. It was helped along with his relationship with One Direction. Early on, he had clearly noticed that they were going to be the center of attention, and being anywhere near their orbit would also elevate him. So he became friends with them, and on screen,
Man, this is the thing with celebrities.
Yep.
They just use each other, you know, for money and status and power and opportunities.
Yep.
All their relationships are fake. You know, these big gatherings they have and parties they have, we know about some of them are, we know that some of them are questionable, I was going to say. But a lot of them are just, people are there, they're not there to party, they're there to seek opportunities, make money, business deals, and all the...
Now, at Simp Saver Sam, you is cooking motherfucking dinner, breakfast, and lunch. You understand what I'm saying? Let me explain to you. What they doing is they're trading, okay? They're going over their projects, their investments, but they're also trading. Like if you look at like the NBA draft or the NFL draft or all them fucking drafts, they happen in all of their systems. So these big parties, the Grammys, the whatever the fuck it is, they're all a trade. Who's up next? All the way down to the fucking host. You dig what I'm, whoever is hosting the event is who's next. You dig what I'm saying? So yeah, cook them up. Cause I'm eating good today at Sim Saver Sam. My lips ashy. I just woke up, y'all. Fuck y'all. Back to you, Sam. Back to you.
Others questionable things they'd be doing at those parties.
Fun uncle. When his bet paid off and their fame exploded, it then gave him an introduction to so many young people in America as this older, personable, funny guy, and it made his transition to Hollywood that much easier. Eventually the stars aligned and his plan worked. He secured his next massive gig, taking over from Craig Ferguson on The Late Late Show, one of the top late-night comedy shows on US TV. At first it looked like everything was going great. Corden inherited a massive, passionate audience from his predecessor. They had loved his quick wit and his charm and the way he pushed the genre forward. Corden was a big success as well, but for different reasons. He didn't have Craig's lightning quick banter, instead he used that down-to-earth persona he had been crafting for years to create easy conversations. Even if he wasn't all that funny, he was perfect for making the show easy to watch. He also changed the format of the show to suit his style, bringing on lots of guests at a time rather than just one and focusing the show.
People watch this?
You ain't shit.
People watch this?
Show on party scripted games and segments instead of improvising a conversation with them. For Corden, it looked like graduating to the big leagues. In the US, he would gain even more fame and stardom than he ever could dream of in the UK. Hollywood was the place for people like him, obsessed with their own importance and their own career, doing whatever it takes to get famous. And this
a lot of horrible people like Ellen and like him end up in Hollywood, funny enough.
And that James Corden was now entering the third stage of fame, acceptance. As Corden got more and more used to his fame, he got complacent with it, and he started to expect special treatment. Anyone put in this position would feel these same effects. But for James Corden, it was even worse. He had always wanted to be successful, and now he really was one of the most famous people in Hollywood. The fake friends, the adverts with his face on, the suck-ups, the yes men were everywhere, all feeding back into his ego every single day, all day. And it was like a runaway train. Despite being an outsider, Corden immediately fit into the culture. He was both willing to do whatever the producers wanted while also making sure that he always had his eye on climbing the ladder. Just like he mentions in this clip.
But that's ego, I think. That's ego. That's what you're talking about, is ego. I lived for 8.5 years what could only be described as a narcissist's dream. Do you know what I mean? I cannot stress how much I think being the host of a late night TV show is one of the greatest jobs in the world. I think it's amazing. I think it is brilliant. Like, my God.
Especially if you've got main character syndrome, mate.
How lucky
I couldn't think of anything worse.
To have done that. I think it's amazing.
Can you imagine if I had my own late night TV show? I'd be cancelled first night. Can you imagine?
Yeah.
Can you imagine that?
Because you would be.
If I actually had my own TV show.
Yep.
I would.
And that's crazy because they would cancel Sam TV show. Why? Because he wouldn't fall for the bullshit. He wouldn't be a part of their systems. He would be actually educating us on how the systems are being ran, who's running the systems. And don't worry, where y'all at? In due time, that's the new TV shows coming up. The new late night shows coming up, right? That's how the trajectory of it will flip, okay? But he's right. They won't give him a TV show, and if they do, it's going to be absolutely fucking scripted. And Sam ain't going for that. Are you, Sam? I know you're not. Back to you, babe.
Say... Yeah, I'll give it 2 episodes, maybe 1. 3 on a generous offer. That's all it would last for. Yeah, I'll be cancelled, thrown out.
You know.
Public school delivered right to your door? Oh yeah. When you learn...
That's all it would last for. Yeah, I'll be cancelled, thrown out.
You know. But if you were another way inclined, you know, drive into a studio lot, you drive past a massive picture of your face. that's the first thing you see when you get to work, is a huge picture of your face and your name. You then park in an amazing parking spot with your name on it.
Today he's well aware of it because he's been out of the game for years now, but at the
Who flipping cares? If you drive past a building that's got your face and name on it, if anything, I'd be worried. I wouldn't want that out on the street.
Yeah.
Besides, no one would know because I'm a twin anyway, so it's kind of pointless, but...
time, he was completely sucked in. While he was rubbing shoulders with former presidents one minute, while getting the superstar treatment from all of his staff the next, it all became normal. Often celebrities will know deep down how hollow this all is. They begin to regret the impact it's had on their family and their friends, and they miss their old authentic selves. But when they've been in it for decades like James Corden, they can almost lose sight of that entirely. Carpool Karaoke was the big draw of his show. It was perfectly designed to put the guest and the audience at ease without any pressure at all. Corden was still in the driving seat, both literally and figuratively, but it let the celebrities...
Well, he wasn't driving, was he? Because the car was on a flipping trailer, wasn't it? The car was literally on a trailer.
Oh my God.
He was pretending to drive.
Be themselves more than a studio interview with canned questions did. Even with the segment finding massive success though, it still led to some problems. Sometimes Corden would insist the celebrities only sing their most popular songs or switch songs out at the last minute to put them on the spot. The Friends reunion carpool karaoke episode was particularly harrowing. James Corden inserted himself into the thing front and center, while it was clear most of the cast members of the show didn't want to be there at all. The only song they managed to get him to sing was the theme song while they just drove around in a circle. Another segment Corden pioneered was Spill Your Guts.
I find that stuff all a bit cringe, to be honest. The car karaoke stuff, I remember that coming out and everyone was watching it. Yeah. Not for me, mate.
Or Fill Your Guts, a game where the guests either had to answer an embarrassing question or they had to eat something gross. Most of the time it went smoothly, but when Jimmy Kimmel came on the show, it exposed Corden for what he had become. Most of the time, Kimmel was just another late night host putting on a show. Next to James Corden though, he of all people was more authentic. Their segment was a strange one. Kimmel seemed determined to show up James, swallowing whatever gross food was put in front of him. James meanwhile weaseled out of the questions and never touched any of the food. That was until the very end, when Kimmel finally asked James the killer questions. Can you name 2 of your cameramen? James was immediately exposed. He actually had no clue and he had to admit this on his own show.
It's a different crew tonight, actually.
Watching him eat his embarrassment as well as some fish smoothie is one of the most satisfying things you ever see. For years, Corden's career dribbled
that looks grim.
Whether he was making obscene jokes about Harvey Weinstein or humping the air in an animal suit, he was generally present on the airwaves. Meanwhile, he continued to build up a bad reputation behind the scenes. It wasn't just the UK industry that hated him. Now those in the US were figuring out...
Literally, all the events and stuff he's been to in the UK from people I know who have seen him or met him, whatever, have all said the exact same thing, that the guy's a complete tool.
Who he really was. In 2022, the penny finally dropped. The first strike was the restaurant scandal we mentioned at the beginning. Everyone knew he was nasty. For years, online threads had been filled with personal anecdotes of Corden being rude or entitled.
What's this? Hey James, you won't remember me, but me and my friends sat at a table next to you and Harry Styles, plus some others in some restaurant in London's Chinatown about 6 years ago. We didn't bother you, but you were massively entitled CUNT who yelled and treated the waitstaff like crap. And when one of my party politely suggested you calm down, you got really aggressive and threatening in a chubby way, like a boozy panda. So my question is this: why did Harry seem so cool while you were such a massive throbbling Yeah, that guy's definitely English, all right. He's definitely English, all right, and I believe it. Wow. What a donut.
For lots of people, it was long overdue proof of the fact. Then it was revealed that he had stolen jokes from both Ricky Gervais and from Noel Fielding a few years before.
I remember this. I completely forgot about this, about him stealing jokes. How did I forget about this?
4. Lots of people pounced on the opportunity to take him down a notch. Celebrities and former friends came out of the woodwork, talking on podcasts about how they always had problems with him. Directors and producers described his bad behavior as well, no longer in fear of breaking the open secrets. One even called him the most difficult and obnoxious presenter he had ever worked with.
Wow.
At this point, it's likely that James was in the final stage of dealing with fame, adaptation. After so many years at the top and now with it all crumbling around him, Gordon finally took his foot off the gas. It was a long time coming, but James was suddenly reminded of what actually mattered in his life, his family. Whether he's being honest about getting away from it all is another matter. Right now, James seems set on making a comeback, although it's unlikely he's aiming to do anything other than acting or writing.
What I'd really love to do is try and write one more thing.
Yeah.
I'd love to try and write one more thing. I'd love to write...
Which would probably be a complete lie and do what Ellen did and try and portray himself as the victim, right?
Yeah.
Right? Trying to make everyone feel sorry for him after Hollywood kicked him out. Sounds familiar.
Again with Ruth Jones, who I wrote Gavin and Stacey with.
But for now, it seems like he's completely irrelevant. Nobody cares about him at all anymore. His views are trash, and it's hard to see people ever wanting him back. All the bridges are burnt in both the UK and the US, and now he's just doing a public apology tour and podcasts. His reputation is now so tattered and damaged, how could he ever win audiences back? Ultimately, it's clear that the very things that made him famous in the first place were the things that would destroy him forever. And all the sacrifices he took would end up devastating everything he loved.
Well,
and remember to check out...
Well, that's what happens. Fake it till you make it. He's the definition of that. My mum always used to say, right, you can cover a turd in glitter, but it's still a turd.
Hey,
that's the same with a lot of these people in Hollywood, man. You can cover a turd in glitter, but it's still a turd.
Period.
That's the same with a lot of these people in Hollywood, man.
It's
funny, going through the comments of this video, a lot of people are saying he is literally the male Ellen, or the UK Ellen, right?
Well...
And it's funny how...
Hold on. He left off at, it's funny how, right? At Simp Saver Sam, I haven't heard any of the child essay accusations about this James person here now with Ellen. She had P. Diddy on her show. She was connected. Oprah. She was connected. Tyler Perry. She was connected. Right? So I thought maybe we was going to get into a little bit more of that type of, but basically this was about his behavior, right? How he treats his staff, how he treats people around him, how he treats his peers. It's about his behavior. Right, his manipulative, deceitful behavior. By the way, where y'all at? Hold up, because by the way, James Corbin, this is the most I've ever watched you, right? So for you to be like having a power trip like that, I ain't even really know about you like that. I think he was like in the movie Into the Woods, and I like that movie. Very good metaphysical movie. But other than that, yeah, no. I what the fuck? So yeah, back to you at Simp Saver Sam. I'm gonna let Sam take it on out, and then we're gonna go over to Simp Saver Sam's channel so you guys can see if you want to subscribe. Back to you.
This guy jumped ship and went to America, and Ellen jumped ship and came to the UK. I don't know which one's worse. But let me know what you guys think down in the comments. I hope you enjoyed this one, and I will see you in the next one. Take care.
Alright, so we're over at Simp Saver Sam's channel. Of course, I'm subscribed. Let's go on over to the videos. Alright, so we just watched, he's literally the male version of Ellen DeGenerate. He also has a video here that's called This Video Will Boil Your Blood. Ellen DeGenerate was caught again, and Jim Carrey tried to warn us. And let's go on over to my channel, please and thank you. So now we're going to go over to my videos. Bow. And as you can see, we got some videos up already. The brat addresses the Antony and defends her name. We got, so Ellen DeGenerate really got flued out to run from her karma. We also got Nicki Minaj that admits her music misguided many. Okay, and then we go on and on and on. Shout out to everyone that's watched you. I haven't been over to see if anyone was watching, but thank y'all so much. I appreciate you all so fucking much, yo. Thank y'all. Thank y'all, thank y'all. If you're into tarot divination, you can go on over to my playlist and you can hit hashtag Lost Souls Tarot, or you can come on over to the live playlist here. And as you can see, we got a lot of tarot divinations coming up. I know you fucking lying. Why are they going through your phone? All eyes are on you. Everyone is watching. Congrats on your promotion and things like, let's scroll. Why can't you trust them? Why do you choose to walk alone? All right, y'all. As always, much peace, much light, much love, but especially that motherfucking darkness because of dark matter. I love y'all. Peace.